Hi, I'm Aaron, 24, and I found out my parents love potpourri and Pinterest baby showers more than me. It happened during the most stressful week of my life, finals week, senior year of college. I was living at home to save money, juggling a part-time job, 6 classes, and nightly caffeine-fueled panic attacks over whether my GPA would survive. And just when I needed support the most, my parents sat me down and asked me to move out, so my pregnant sister could take my room. No warning. No plan. Just, Julie's going to need the nursery space. The nursery. The room I studied, slept, and cried in, was apparently now better suited for a crib and a rocking chair. I thought they were joking. They weren't. They told me it was temporary, and that I was resourceful and smart and would figure it out. You know, the usual affirmations right before they slam a metaphorical door in your face. Julie, my 26-year-old sister who hadn't spoken to me in months, was suddenly the golden girl again, because of an unexpected pregnancy with a guy named Howard who nobody had even met yet. Meanwhile, I was 3 exams away from graduating, and my entire life was being boxed up and shoved into the back seat of my car. I slept in the campus library parking lot that first night. It was cold. My back ached. I couldn't charge my phone. But hey, at least Julie got my bed and a "Welcome home baby and mommy" banner strung up across the fireplace. And the worst part? No one cared. My parents never checked in. Julie didn't call. It was like I just quietly deleted myself from the family so the new baby could download. That was 2 years ago. Now they want me to come to Julie's wedding. And I have no idea if I'm supposed to clap or scream. So I ghosted their invitation for a week. My mom sent a message full of exclamation points like that would somehow soften the fact that they tossed me out like expired yogurt. "We'd love to see you. Julie keeps saying she misses her brother." Right. The same Julie who didn't even text me when I was crashing on a stranger's couch eating instant noodles with no hot water. When I didn't respond, they followed up with an email. Formal. Almost like a business offer. "We hope you'll reconsider. This is a family event. Let's put the past behind us." Put the past behind us? As in, the part where I got evicted to make room for a baby swing? I sat in my tiny one-bedroom apartment rereading their message while my laundry buzzed in the background. That place, my place, was the result of 2 years of clawing my way back. I'd graduated. Landed a decent job. I even bought my own mattress with my own money. No hand-me-downs. No help. Just me. Meanwhile, Julie was still living in the house I got kicked out of, now turned full-on baby palace. They'd posted photos on Facebook of the nursery with white and gold wallpaper, a $600 stroller, and this weird owl-shaped humidifier that cost more than I made in a week back then. I didn't reply to their email. Not because I didn't have things to say, but because I knew if I started, I wouldn't stop. I'd explode. I'd say something like, "You picked a baby you didn't even know yet over a son you'd raised for 22 years. Then, out of nowhere, Julie called me. At first, I thought she dialed me. But when I picked up, she said, "I miss you. I wish you'd come to the wedding." I froze. Not because I believed her, but because she sounded like she meant it. And I hated that a part of me wanted to believe her too. We agreed to meet up at a diner halfway between us. Neutral territory. No baby mobiles. No photos of my old room repurposed as a diaper-changing command center. Just 2 siblings and the smell of stale bacon grease. Julie looked tired. Not like new mom exhausted. More like soul exhausted. Like someone who'd spent 2 years pretending everything was okay and finally ran out of performance. She started with, "I didn't know they kicked you out." I swear. I didn't answer. I just stared at the cracked Formica table like it might offer me emotional clarity. Eventually I said, "What exactly did they tell you?" Julie took a long breath. "They said you found a better opportunity. That you were moving in with a friend to focus on school and work. That you wanted space." I laughed. Like an actual bark of disbelief. "I was living in my goddamn car, Julie. I showered at the gym. I wrote my thesis next to a vending machine." Her face turned pale. She covered her mouth and started crying, messy, unexpected, snot-dripping crying. I wasn't ready for that. I had a whole angry monologue queued up in my head, and now here she was, cracking like an egg. "I didn't know," she said again. "If I had known, I would have said something. I would have stopped them." Would she? I didn't know. The Julie I grew up with would've. But the Julie who lived in my room while I froze through April finals and tried not to fall asleep at my job restocking mini muffins at the campus cafe? I didn't recognize her. Still, something broke in me. Maybe because she finally showed up. Maybe because she cried the same way she did when we were kids and our dog died. Maybe because I hadn't let myself feel anything real in years and this was the crack in the dam. I wanted to hate you, I told her. I really did. Julie looked up, wiping her face. I deserve that. I nodded. Yeah. You kind of do. Then she pulled something from her bag. A picture, her son. My nephew. Little chubby face, cheeks like pillows, tiny fingers clutching a blue stuffed dinosaur. He asks about you, she said. We call you Uncle Ghost. It hit harder than I expected. And that's when she dropped the bomb. They lied to both of us. About a lot of things. And I think you should know what really happened. I wasn't ready for what came next. Julie pulled out her phone and opened a string of messages she'd exchanged with our mom over the past year. She turned the screen toward me like a courtroom exhibit. I asked her a few months ago why you never come around, she said. That's when I started digging. The texts were revealing. Mom had told Julie I was choosing to distance myself. Because I was struggling with adulthood. And didn't want responsibility. She spun this narrative where I was the black sheep, the one who ran off in a rebellious phase, too proud to accept help. She told me you left to find yourself, Julie said, tears threatening again. Said you wanted to be independent. I didn't know she'd kicked you out. I sat back, jaw clenched. She made me sound like a runaway hippie. I left because they shoved me out like I was extra luggage. Then Julie said something I never expected. They tried to do the same thing to Howard. What? She nodded. When I first moved in, they were all sweet and supportive. But after the baby was born, they started controlling everything. My schedule. My parenting choices. They even tried to name my son Liam instead of Theo. Mom said Theodore was too serious and didn't look good in cursive on a cake. She was half laughing, half crying, and I didn't know what to feel. Howard couldn't take it. She went on. He told them we needed space, and they flipped. Mom called him ungrateful. Dad said we were turning our backs on family values. So we left. Got our own place. That I hadn't known. All I ever saw were the Instagram smiles, the matching family pajamas, the picture-perfect birthday cakes. Turns out, it was all a shiny veneer over the same dysfunction I'd drowned in 2 years earlier. I'm sorry I didn't reach out, Julie said. I thought you were fine. And I was so overwhelmed, I didn't question it. I looked at her, my sister, the girl who used to braid my hair for fun when we were kids and sneak me candy when I had a bad day. She looked different now, older, heavier with responsibility. But the core of her, the part that loved me, was still there. I don't hate you, I said quietly. But I don't know how to trust any of you again. I don't blame you, she whispered. But I need you at my wedding. Not for Mom and Dad. For me. For Theo. She reached out and squeezed my hand. Please. Let me show you I mean it. And the thing is, I believed her. Which scared the hell out of me. 2 weeks later, I stood in a rental tux at Julie's wedding rehearsal, holding a tiny bouquet of fake daisies and wondering how the hell I got roped into being the man of honor. Yeah. Not best man. Not groomsman. Julie invented a new title just for me. It's symbolic, she said. You were the man who stood by me growing up, even when I didn't deserve it. Was I moved? Yes. Was I also silently panicking because I had to give a toast? Also yes. Howard, to his credit, was a chill guy. He greeted me like we were long-lost brothers and tried way too hard to be funny. I didn't dislike him. He was harmless, awkward, had a surprisingly deep laugh, but every time he said, "We're lucky to have you back, man," I wanted to crawl under a pew. Because that's the thing, being back meant confronting everything. Especially our parents. They arrived late to the rehearsal dinner, of course. My mom was wearing a white dress like she was the bride. My dad gave me a half hug that felt like a handshake that got lost halfway in. Look at you, Mom said like we hadn't been radio silent for 2 years. All grown up. You look just like your Uncle Raymond. I don't even have an Uncle Raymond. Dinner was excruciating. Julie sat between me and them like a human buffer. Every time Mom tried to steer the conversation back to her wedding outfit, I had to bite my tongue not to ask whose wedding she thought it was, Julie redirected to Howard's new job or Theo's obsession with dinosaurs. Dad asked if I was still doing that computer stuff. I told him I worked in software development. He nodded like I'd said I was a magician or a barista. Afterward, Julie and I escaped to a balcony while the others cleaned up. "You okay?" she asked. "I feel like I'm in a documentary about polite emotional warfare," I said. She snorted. "I'm sorry. I tried to keep it small, but Mom wouldn't hear it. She wanted to reclaim the narrative." "What does that even mean?" "She wanted to use the wedding to make it seem like we're all one big happy family again. Clean up the mess. Pretend nothing ever happened." That's when Julie leaned in, eyes gleaming. "But I've got a plan." I raised an eyebrow. "Should I be scared?" She smirked. "Just promise me you'll be there for the toast tomorrow." "Oh God. You're going to detonate something, aren't you?" "Let's just say," she said, clinking her wine glass against mine, "the bride has some things to get off her chest." And that's when I knew this wedding was not going to be just another happily ever after. The ceremony was gorgeous. String lights. An outdoor garden. Theo walked down the aisle holding a sign that said, "Here comes Mommy." And half the guests cried. Including me. Shut up. Julie looked like an actual queen in her dress. Simple, stunning, and exactly the kind of thing our mom would never have picked out. Howard held it together until the vows, and then cracked into this adorable, wobbly voice monologue about building a life from honesty, even when it's hard. I should have known that line was foreshadowing. Then came the reception. I gave my toast first. It was short, sweet, and incredibly safe. I talked about how Julie used to bribe me with cookies to do her math homework, how proud I was of the woman she'd become, and how Theo was lucky to have her. People clapped. I exhaled. Then Julie stood up. At first, it was just what you'd expect. "Thank you all for coming. I'm so grateful for this day." But then she looked right at me, and everything shifted. "I want to say something to my brother." "Oh no. I want to thank you for showing up today. Because I know how hard that is. And I want everyone here to understand why." I froze. Julie turned to the crowd. 2 years ago, our parents made a decision that changed our family. They asked my brother to move out so I could move back in while I was pregnant. What they didn't tell me, or any of you, was that he had nowhere to go. He ended up sleeping in his car. While I got a nursery and baby showers, he got silence. The room went dead quiet. I looked over and saw Mom's face go white. Dad shifted in his seat like someone had just unplugged him from the wall. Julie kept going. "They didn't just kick him out. They lied to both of us. Told me he was fine. That he wanted to go. And when he disappeared from our lives, they let me believe it was his choice." She looked back at me, eyes shining. "I didn't know, and I'm so sorry. But I do now. And I want to say it here, in front of everyone, because if we can't speak the truth at the beginning of a marriage, when can we?" Then she turned to the crowd again. "I love my parents. But they hurt us. And I won't pretend everything's okay just to keep things polite. Not today. Not anymore." You could hear the forks dropping. My mom stood up halfway through and made this awkward coughing sound like she was about to give a speech of her own. But before she could say anything, Julie added, "This wedding isn't about appearances. It's about starting over. And I'm starting over by choosing honesty and choosing people who show up when it's hard." Then she raised her glass. "To Aaron. My brother. My man of honor. My hero." Everyone raised their glasses. Except our parents. They sat there frozen, like someone had pressed pause on their social performance. And I didn't know what to feel. Pride? Shock? Vengeance? Maybe all of it. But one thing was clear. Julie wasn't just trying to make amends. She was burning the old playbook. The fallout was faster than I expected. Within minutes of Julie's toast, our mom excused herself to the bathroom and stayed there for 45 minutes. Classic move. Dad stood by the open bar, looking like he was trying to solve a Rubik's Cube with his mind. No one approached them. Not even Aunt Deborah, who usually thrives on family chaos like a moth drawn to a dumpster fire. Julie found me outside by the string lights strung over the patio, Theo asleep in her arms. "Too much?" she asked, her voice low, almost sheepish. I snorted. "You lit a controlled emotional explosion at your own wedding. I'm impressed." She smiled, tired but satisfied. I meant every word. And you deserve to hear it from me, in front of them. I nodded. It was a hell of a gift. Then she dropped one more bomb. They were planning to renew their vows at the reception. I blinked. What? Yeah. Mom bought herself a second white dress. And they asked the DJ to carve out 10 minutes after our first dance so they could surprise everyone. That explained the extra seating cards labeled Vow Renewal, Ted and Mila. I thought it was a weird table name. Turns out, they were about to hijack her wedding to rebrand themselves as model parents. But it gets better. They were going to do it right after my toast, Julie said. But then someone, she looked extremely smug here, accidentally spilled red wine all over Mom's dress before the ceremony. I blinked. You! Howard's cousin, she said, grinning. And I might have handed him a very full glass near her garment bag. I laughed so hard I almost dropped my drink. Meanwhile, word of the speech spread like wildfire. People were quiet at first, polite, unsure, whispering. But then one of Julie's college friends came up to me, gave me a hug, and said, "You deserve better." I'm glad she said it. One by one, people started coming over. Cousins, co-workers, even the DJ during his break. Every single person said something along the lines of, "That was brave," or, "It needed to be said." No one, not one person, defended our parents. By the end of the night they were gone. Slipped out quietly, not even saying goodbye. I asked Julie if she regretted it. She shook her head. Not for a second. Even if they never speak to you again? They didn't really speak to me before, she said. Not about anything that mattered. Then she looked down at Theo, sleeping soundly in her arms. I'm not raising him to think silence is the same as love. That hit hard. As we stood there under the lights, with leftover cake on our plates and wedding music drifting through the air, something settled inside me. Not quite peace, but maybe something close. Julie had drawn a line in the sand. And for once, I wasn't on the wrong side of it. 2 weeks after the wedding, I got a letter. Not an email, not a text. An actual envelope. Ivory paper, scented with whatever perfume my mom thought screamed maturity and grace. Sealed with a golden sticker that read, "From the desk of Mila." The letter was 5 pages long, single-spaced, of course. It started with a paragraph about how, deeply hurt, they were by Julie's wedding toast, followed by a short novella about how family matters should be kept private, and public humiliation serves no one. Apparently, my existence was now synonymous with humiliation. They accused me of poisoning Julie against them, as if I had been running some long con to dismantle the fragile Jenga tower of their reputation. There were guilt-trippy lines like, "After all we've done for you," and "We never expected you to turn on us." The letter closed with, "You're welcome to reach out when you're ready to talk like adults." Like adults. After they kicked their adult son out during finals week, lied to both their children, and then tried to hijack one daughter's wedding to repair their image in a room full of people who already saw through the act. I didn't reply. Not because I didn't have things to say, God knows I did, but because I didn't owe them any more of my peace. I'd spent 2 years building a life from ashes. I had rent to pay, code to debug, laundry to fold, and friends who'd become more like family than the ones who shared my last name. Julie and I started talking every few days. She'd send photos of Theo building pillow forts or pretending to be a dinosaur in the kitchen. I started saving them. I even printed one and stuck it on my fridge, a tiny face smiling at me through a spaghetti-smeared mouth. Sometimes I still hear Mom's words echoing in my head. Julie needs the support more than you do. Support. That's the word that stuck. Because now that I think about it, I'm not sure I ever got any from them. Not really. I was the quiet one, the easy child, the kid who didn't cry too much or ask for too many things. I got good grades, worked part-time, didn't cause trouble. And in return, I got invisibility. Julie once told me, "They only love the version of us that looks good in pictures." And that's exactly it. Their love had terms and conditions. It came with disclaimers and social media filters. The wedding changed things. Not just between me and my sister, but in how I see myself. For years I thought maybe I was too sensitive. Maybe I should have sucked it up and moved out without making it a big deal. Maybe it really was my fault that we drifted apart. But now, I know better. I know I deserve better. After the wedding, Howard started calling me brother-in-law. Like it was a badge of honor. We're not close yet, but he's trying, and I respect that. Sometimes we text memes about toddler tantrums. Sometimes he asks if I want to come over for Sunday dinner. And I do. The first time I showed up, Theo ran to the door yelling, "Uncle Aaron!" like I was a Marvel superhero. Julie greeted me in sweatpants, hair a mess, holding a spoon in one hand and a sticky toddler in the other. She smiled. "You're really here," she said. "Yeah," I said. "I think I want to be." We ate spaghetti on paper plates and played hide-and-seek in the living room. Theo hid in the same spot 3 times. I pretended I couldn't find him every time. After dinner, Julie sat across from me while Theo napped in a blanket fort that was one sneeze away from collapse. "I still feel guilty," she admitted. "That I didn't do more. That I didn't see it." "You were drowning," I said. "So was I. That's how they raised us. Smile and swim while they rock the boat." She smiled sadly. "You think they'll ever apologize?" "No," I said. "But I think we've stopped waiting. That's something." We sat there in silence for a while. Comfortable. Familiar. Like when we were kids watching cartoons past bedtime, only this time, we weren't afraid of getting caught. And then Julie said something I'll never forget. "I don't want Theo to grow up thinking family is something you tolerate. I want him to know it's something you build." That hit me square in the chest. Because she was right. We don't have to accept the blueprint we were given. We can knock it down and start over. Brick by brick. Choice by choice. That night, I tucked Theo into bed. He asked me to read him a book about dinosaurs with big teeth and bad manners. I did all the voices. He laughed so hard he snorted. As I closed the door, Julie whispered from the hallway, "Thank you for coming back." And I realized I hadn't come back. I'd started forward. This wasn't a return to the past. It was the beginning of something new. Something better. Something we built ourselves. The first time I saw my parents again was at Theo's 4th birthday party. It wasn't planned. They showed up uninvited, walking into Julie's backyard like they were still the main characters in everyone's life. Mom carried a gift bag the size of a small refrigerator. Dad wore a cardigan like he was auditioning for a commercial called Disappointed but Still Superior. Julie saw them first. I caught the panic in her eyes, but she held her ground. She didn't run, didn't flinch. Just said, "You're welcome to stay. But this day isn't about you." They blinked, confused. Like the script had been rewritten, and no one told them. Theo was too busy smashing cake into his face to care. Howard was manning the grill. I was holding a juice box like a wine glass, trying to decide if I should fake a bathroom emergency. Then Mom spotted me. "Oh, Aaron! You look well," she said, like we'd bumped into each other at the grocery store and not ghosted each other for over a year. I nodded. "I am well." She waited. I didn't say more. Dad stepped in next. "We've been meaning to call. Thought it might be time." "Time for what?" He hesitated. "To reconnect." There it was. The olive branch. Rotten and wilted, but extended nonetheless. I glanced over at Julie. She was kneeling next to Theo, helping him open presents. Her smile was soft, real. She looked happy. For once, she wasn't playing peacekeeper or fixer or buffer. She was just a mom, enjoying her kid's birthday. I turned back to our parents. "I'm not interested in reconnecting," I said. "Not right now." Mom's face crumpled for a second, and then she rearranged it into the familiar mask of wounded dignity. "Well, that's your decision." "It is," I said. "And it's the right one for me." They didn't argue. Didn't yell. Maybe they were too stunned, or maybe they were hoping not to make a scene. Either way, they walked back to their car 20 minutes later, barely touching the sandwiches. Julie came up beside me as they pulled out of the driveway. "You okay?" "Yeah," I said. "That was weirdly satisfying." She laughed. "Was it the sandwich snub?" "No. It was not caring. Because that was the real shift. I didn't care if they liked me. Or understood me. Or pitied me. I wasn't starving for their attention anymore. I had my own kitchen now. My own fridge. My own life. Julie and I cleaned up together after the party. Theo had passed out in a sugar coma on the couch, clutching a plastic T-Rex like it was made of gold. "I still can't believe they showed up," Julie said. "I can't," I replied. "They hate being irrelevant." She paused, then grinned. "Well, too bad. This party was 5 stars without them." That night, I went home, took off my shoes, and collapsed on the couch. On the wall behind me hung a framed photo Julie gave me for Christmas, me and Theo, both wearing dinosaur hats, mid-roar. My phone buzzed. A message from her. "Thanks for helping today. I love you." I smiled. I hadn't just rebuilt my life. I'd found the parts worth keeping. And left the rest behind.